Hey, what's up? This is Patrick. Welcome to episode 34 of the Double ETF podcast, Everything Except the Football. I hope you guys are doing great. Today, I had the pleasure of talking with Lisa Solak. It was overdue. We had our first conversation about being on the podcast months ago. So if I talked to any one of you before about being on the podcast, please be patient. It might take a while, but real life being what it is. Yeah, welcome to 2022, the first episode of the year. Hopefully it will be a good one, episode-wise and everything else-wise. If you want to drop us a line, you can do so at EETFpod on Twitter. You can also leave us a review. That would be appreciated on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also drop us an email at eetfpodcast@gmail.com. Also, if you want to contribute financially, it would be amazing. You could join the awesome club. You could join Carly, Kevin, Josh, Nick, M-Bags, Carly again, Hector, Tom Newberg, Tony Greathouse, RJ, Woody, and Mike Drew. Yeah, what else can I say it would be? Any contribution is really much appreciated, whatever it might be. So, yeah, that's it. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Lisa Solak. Thanks. All right. With me tonight, I have the pleasure of welcoming long overdue out of Illinois, Lisa Solak. How are you?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, good. Thanks. And I got that right. You're in Illinois, right?
Yes, I am. I'm outside of Chicago.
Oh, okay. I wasn't too sure because there is quite a big Illinois contingent on the Name That Tune group.
Yes.
Like 5 or 6 people?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right. But so yeah, right now you are near Chicago, but is it where you're from originally?
Yes, outside of Chicago. Different suburbs throughout my life, but always right outside of Chicago.
Okay. So so I'm going to backtrack to the regular question. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Okay, well, like I said, born and raised just outside of Chicago, and I have husband and 2 kids and 1 dog.
Mm-hmm.
I am an archivist by trade, and boy, that seems to be my life. And I love music and reading and playing games and enjoy my friends and traveling when I can.
Yep, when we can. So you're an archivist. Have you been, by trade, that's always what you wanted to do?
Yes. It actually started way back when I was a preteen and I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark. I wanted to be an archaeologist.
Okay, yeah.
And I went to school. I got an anthropology degree, and one of the minor tracks was museum work.
All right.
So instead of getting the artifacts, I take care of the artifacts.
Okay.
And that segued into archives work. So with curating, it's objects. And with archives, it's the documents.
Right.
So now I take care of documents.
Okay, but I suppose, and I am just throwing questions out there, I guess there is still some bit of restoration work involved, probably?
There is. I am not qualified to do restoration work. I've done some minor things with some modern papers. I was an archivist for years with Motorola. I was a corporate archivist.
Okay.
I did that for over 20 years. So there were some restoration things that I was able to apply.
Can you give me an example?
When people donated things, a lot of things were bound with rubber bands.
Okay.
And let me tell you and the listeners, please do not use rubber bands ever because they degrade and they become sticky and they actually adhere to the documents.
Okay.
So vinyl and rubber are bad for museum and archives. So it takes some painstaking work to remove things like that without ripping the paper or pulling the ink off.
Huh. That's odd because, again, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I've always assumed that rubber bands would just dry up and, snap by themselves and not do any damage, but apparently not.
That's true. If they are standing alone, they will just dry rot and fall away. But if you have them stacked in a box where there's nowhere for them to go, they almost melt into the paper then because they're compressed into it.
Ah, okay. Okay, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So did they tell you that at school or that's on the job training?
Oh, that you noticed that on the job after a couple years. There's always these little things. Staples can rust and start rusting into the paper and things like that.
And what would be the most awesome document that you've run into?
I work for a presidential library now.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to do an audit of the vault. And I held Obama's inauguration speech with his liner notes.
Nice.
And I might have gotten a little bleary-eyed because it was literal history, presidential history.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, if it was Trump's, you could always, trip and, drop into a shredder. Whoops. My bad.
The archivist in me could not do that.
That's true. You file both the good and the bad.
Yes.
Yes. But what would be okay, so you previously mentioned archaeology and then anthropology. If you could go back, would you focus on one of those two, or you wound up where you belong?
I would have liked to participate in a few digs.
Mm-hmm.
I did a few minor ones.
Okay.
In the United States of Indian campgrounds or Native American campgrounds, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started taking the classes with museum work, I realized that was what I liked to do. I liked to handle the items and make sure that other people could see it.
Okay, so if you had been involved in the, art, like a museum curator or something, then I suppose, again, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I suppose you would have needed more of a art background or something, maybe?
I probably would not have gotten into art museums. I would have focused more on science museums or natural history.
Okay.
Art museums, that's a whole other animal. And you have to have a whole lot of different skills, a whole different skill set, because not only do you have to know art history, but you have to know how to take care of the different pieces of art and the frames and the canvas. And is it acrylic? Is it oil? And that's a rough one.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have the patience for that.
And you need to be good with your hands as well. You
Mm-hmm.
need to have the knowledge and the skills.
Yes.
So that can
and
be
you
difficult.
can't be a klutz. And
also,
that's me.
Okay.
I would be the one that trips and puts your face through a Renoir or something.
Okay. Yeah, so at least if you trip into a stack of, papers, it tumbles over and you can, put it back up again. That's
exactly
less damage in theory. Okay, so when you say you're an archivist, what is the first question people ask you? What is the most common myth about that job?
First, they ask me what the hell an archivist is.
Okay.
And then after I do that, they say, oh, so you just file paper. And it's more than that because the papers aren't filed, they're arranged. And they're arranged in different series and subsets. It's a whole taxonomy that is used.
Okay.
And the reason it's done that way is because the end result of an archivist job is to be able to answer questions.
Mm-hmm.
So if we get a research request, an archivist knows exactly where to find the answer. And that's the basis of the whole thing, to preserve everything, to make sure that it lasts for years and years and years, and also to know the answers to the questions that are hidden within those papers.
That sounds a lot like a librarian's job.
It's very close. We're very close.
Okay.
In fact, if you get an archivist degree, it's usually coupled with a library degree, library and archives degrees.
Okay. And what would you say is the ratio between filing documents and preserving them in your job?
In my job, the filing and the arranging is done as soon as you get a hold of the papers. As soon as they become part of your collection, as soon as they're accessioned, then the arrangements start, because you can't preserve them or use them until you get a hold of them, until you get them under control. And then once you get them under control and you're going through things, then you notice a preservation. Are there rusty staples? Is there a rubber band in there? Is there an artifact slipped into the boxes? Sometimes we found patches and things and CDs and DVDs, and those aren't part of the paper collection, so they're pulled out and transferred to the different departments. So that's all part of the process.
So would you say, for example, your job in general would be like, when it comes to time management, 3/4 filing and 1/4 actual working on the documents to preserve them?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. All right. Oh, you mentioned being a klutz, and you don't have to answer that, but have you ever damaged something?
At Obama, I have not. At Motorola, I did.
Okay.
For Motorola, I was something that is called in the field the lone arranger, which means I handled artifacts, photographs, film, and paper. So I did everything.
Electronics as well?
So all devices, everything that has to do with the history of Motorola. And part of my job was talking to marketing and telling them, hey, when you get the phones, send me a copy. So I'm not looking for them 5 years from now. I can get them right into the collection, the brand new, hot off the conveyor belt phone. Send it to me. And they sent me a phone, and I opened it up. And what you do is when you get it in, you open it up, you make sure you have all the pieces, and then you catalog it. And I pulled the phone out, and I don't even know what happened, but it just went flying and hit the floor and broke, which was not good, because it was like the brand new hottest phone at the time. And I had to call them and tell them to send me another one. And they said, oh, did it get lost? I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Sort of slipped out of my hand. I told them it jumped out of my hands. So
what year was that, more or less?
that was probably 2017.
Okay. So that was...
So it was more recent.
Okay. So yeah, I was going to say, if it was like in, 2006, I would have asked, did you stomp on the phone? Because they were built like tanks back then.
Yeah. No, it's just one of the smartphones at the time.
Okay. So you mentioned another National Archive. How many are there?
So the United States has the main National Archives, and they have 2 buildings in Washington, D.C. And that is where our Constitution is and the founding papers and everything. So that's your main building. Then there is a branch of presidential libraries.
Okay.
And don't make me count them, man. I don't know how many there are. But
one per president?
yeah, but it starts sort of in the middle. So FDR is the first one, and it's in New York. And then it was sort of sporadic. And then you have like Hoover and Eisenhower, and then moving on through that, there's Nixon and Reagan and Carter and Bush too, and everybody has one now.
Okay. So are they located close to where the president first started his career? Like, for example, Obama in Chicago, that's not a coincidence.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Some of them, like Bush, it's where they were born and where they started.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say something in poor taste, but I will abstain.
Be nice.
Yes.
Some of them, their homestead is integrated in it, so it might be the state that they're born in.
Okay.
So it depends. They can choose. Like for President Biden, for instance, he could choose anywhere he wanted.
Okay.
And he could go to Pennsylvania, where he's from,
Okay.
or Delaware, where he started his political career.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Or anywhere he wants to go, actually, but they usually do somewhere with significance. My money is on Delaware because he already has his vice presidential papers at the University of Delaware.
Ah, okay. And that is alma mater as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't know that. I wasn't sure. Okay, and so I'm going to throw that question out there. Trump, do you know where it will be? So we can throw eggs at it? Sorry.
So he did not establish one.
Huh.
So his papers...
Or...
I don't know.
Okay.
Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
It's tricky with the presidential libraries because there is a law called the Presidential Records Act.
Okay.
Where every piece of paper generated during a presidency is saved. Okay. We have a Post-it note with a doodle on it. It's saved. You don't throw it away. Okay. That is run by the federal government and NARA. Then you have the presidential foundations. And usually they work together and they have one building with the NARA on one side, who has ownership and control of the papers, and then the foundation, sort of the rah-rah side, our guy's great side of it, that sort of put the spin on everything. And they usually work together.
Okay.
With Obama, we are standalone. We are NARA only. He has his presidential center in Chicago. The foundation is different. We work together. They will borrow things from us, and they ask us for papers or for information. We work with them. They are a client of ours, you might say, but we're not all together in one big happy family. When transition teams were started, when Trump was in office, that's something that's always brought up. What are you going to do with your papers? Is there a foundation? And crickets.
All right.
So without saying too much, his papers are stored in a safe and secure location, and they are being processed and being treated as the presidential records that they are.
Mm-hmm.
He has nothing to do with them.
Okay.
So if his foundation wants to build something and wants to partner with NARA, that is fine.
Okay, so he cannot block the, not release, but like he cannot keep something confidential if you wanted.
He is trying.
Yes.
He is trying.
Okay.
And that's all I can say about that.
Yes.
He is trying. But listeners out there, look into the Presidential Records Act and read it up to it. It is fascinating. It is something I did not know about until I started working at the Presidential Library. And it is great reading. It's not long. It's a simple act, but it's pretty fascinating how presidential papers are handled now.
Okay. Okay, listeners, you know what to do. Get to it.
Yeah, homework time.
Yes, exactly. By the way, if I ask so many basic questions, sorry, I'm not American, so apologies if some of those questions are super obvious, but
No. Average citizens really don't know how presidential libraries work. So that is fine. I was one of them. When I was hired, I thought I was going to be part of the Obama Center.
Okay.
I mean, they're just like, we have nothing to do with him. And I'm like, holy crap. Well, I want the job anyway.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
You've been doing this job, archivist in general, for about how many years?
I started at Motorola in 1995 and started the museum curator / archivist job in 99. So
Okay. And did you get that straight out of college?
Yes.
Was there a big demand for those types of job?
No, in fact, I had to build my way up. I got into Motorola actually on the manufacturing side
Okay.
because, when you graduate college, you go into that panic. Like, holy crap, I have this degree in anthropology. What was I thinking? So I thought, I'll get a job at Motorola. They just started hiring. And I will work there. And while I'm working there and earning money, I'll look for a real job as an anthropologist, curator / archivist, anything that'll come my way. And I was working at Motorola in manufacturing. I was building cellular towers.
Ah, okay.
And on the job board, they said that corporate needed museum guides because they actually had a museum in their corporate center. And I'm like, museum, huh? So I put in for a transfer and I became a guide.
Huh.
So, and that was perfect because as a guide, you learn all about the history because you're the person telling the story. So as a guide, I worked my way up and then they needed another curator and I was front and center with that. And I just slid right into that role.
Nice.
And then it just kept going up and up and up.
I mean, I guess it's probably true of most jobs, but over time with digitalization, your entire job must have been turned, upside down.
Yeah, a lot of things changed. That's why it's good to have objects still in a collection because even if paper starts going away or it's on a different format, the information's still there. It's just in bytes instead of pages.
Yes.
And same with images. It's not all negatives. Now it's just hard drives full of images. And same with video. But objects are always going to be objects.
True. And both are as destructible as the other. Like, data gets corrupted and paper fades. So, and there is some preservation work needed for both in both cases. So what would be the one piece of advice you would give to someone starting in that field in 2022?
Get all of the training you can. Okay. Seriously, because just like you said, things change and you have to know what's going on. If you come in and you are rigid and won't change, you're not going to last. If you're still using clear nail polish and whiteout to put artifact numbers on the back of a phone to label it, you're out, man. You know, there's better ways of doing things now. So it's sort of funny. You can't stick with the archaic ways.
That's true.
of preserving things now, and especially digital. When I started digital, it's just like, oh, here's a website, download some pictures from it. And that was the extent of our digital preservation. And now it's 85%. It's crazy.
Wow. And when you said get all the training you can, I thought for half a second, you were going to say get out and pick a new career.
That too.
Well, I mean, honestly, I've been doing what I do since 95 as well. And if I had any advice to give to a new translator, it would be honestly pick another career. Because that business has been going down the tubes for a few years now. But you didn't hear that from me.
Okay.
So if we track back to before college, if for any reason archaeology had not been an option, what would have been your plan B?
When I was a kid, I wanted to be a mortician.
Ah, okay.
Because I knew I would never run out of clients.
Yes.
Do I think I could do that today? I don't know. I also wanted to be a teacher, like a history teacher.
Okay.
Which is also, run and don't look back career also with some people.
Yes. I tip my hat to all teachers out there. Honestly, they are more selfless than I can ever be, I think.
Yeah.
Especially with COVID and all that. But it was already a tough job to begin with.
Yes.
And now it's even harder.
Yes, definitely.
So I got a list of different questions. One of those jumped at me. What underrated tools are indispensable for your job?
You're going to laugh. Let's see if I have one. Oh, I don't have one. It's called the spatula.
Mm-hmm.
It's very thin and it's metal. And one side is flat and almost rounded and one side sort of square. It's like a $2 tool. I kid you not.
Okay.
This thing is my most used tool ever because, like I was talking about staplers, well, you just can't rip a stapler out of a document. And even using one of those claw staple removers, those can damage it too.
Yes.
These little spatulas, you flip it over and you slowly lift the tines up.
Okay.
And then you flip it over and then you use the spatula again and work your way under and it pops it out.
Magic.
Yeah, it's magic. And it helps with those pesky rubber bands and lifting folds because you can't lift them by hand because we are stronger and more brutal than we think. So we think we're being careful and we'll just tear something up. But these little tools, they're like an extension of your fingers and your fingernails. I love it.
Nice.
It's funny. And it's like a $2 tool.
You can also stab people with it.
Oh, you could.
So, just in case.
Yeah.
And also you mentioned actually working with your hands. You probably have to wear gloves all the time when you handle documents, right?
It depends on the document.
Okay.
I know with modern papers like this, we don't, I was shocked at this, but you don't have to wear gloves for things like this.
Okay.
I know. Because when I was working in the vault, I was just like, let me get my gloves. And the archivist is like, don't worry about it because you're just opening the folder. You're not touching it.
Okay.
So it's like, oh, okay.
All right.
And a lot of times, believe it or not, the gloves were also to protect you. A lot of artifacts that I worked with at Motorola had asbestos pads in them.
Okay.
And you didn't want to touch that crap.
Yes.
Same with Bakelite that started degrading because there was arsenic in Bakelite.
Okay, they know that.
So you don't want to be handling that and then go eat your lunch, So a lot of times gloves were there to protect you, but they make sure to drill it in your head that you're protecting the artifact because then you'll be more apt to put them on.
Yep.
And also a lot of artifacts at Motorola were metal. So if your hands are all greasy and sweaty and you think they're dry, you could etch your fingerprint right into certain pieces of metal. So that was also important to wear gloves for.
I had a chess set and the whites were silver and the blacks were brass.
Forget it.
After every game, I would have to, polish them again.
Yeah.
It looked nice, though. It looked really nice.
There is a silver-plated reproduction artifact at Motorola that has my thumbprint in it, and that's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Mom's the word. Is there a statute of limitations on goof
I don't know.
ups?
Well, they could always run that print. It's pretty clear if they really want to know whose it is.
Okay, so, actually, I guess that could be one of the answers to one of the questions later, maybe. Okay, so that's a tease for later. All right, so, okay, so we can move away from work, if that's
yes.
okay.
We're switching gears.
Yes, switching gears, exactly. So, honestly, was there anything that about your work that you think people would benefit from knowing? Like maybe demystify something or...
maybe just a PSA.
Sure.
How about this, folks? When it's safe, visit museums. Go to museums, go to your libraries and support these institutions, because without footfall and help from people visiting, they're going to start disappearing. Because unfortunately, money is what makes the world go round, and they need our help. So
Yep.
that's my takeaway for that.
That's perfect. All right. So, okay, we can switch gears and start with music. I know what your top one band is, but what would be your top three bands?
My top three would be The Damned,
Mm-hmm.
Peter Murphy / Bauhaus. I'll count them as one.
Okay.
So I'm interchangeable with my love between the solo artist and the band itself. And coming out of left field, it would have to be the Bee Gees.
Oh, wow. Okay. There you go. That's that's breaking news right there. I had no idea.
Yeah.
All right. Any reason why?
It was probably one of the earliest bands I ever liked.
Okay.
I have vivid memories of my mother having Saturday Night Fever, the album, and it had a big gatefold. And I remember her playing it, and I would be sitting on the floor looking at the record and looking at the gatefold and just loving it. And I think I was 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably one of my earlier memories about music. And when I was in high school, it was like, I didn't listen to it because, that ain't cool. But then when I got older, I was like, I do really like them, and I'm going to start listening to them again. And the more I explored their catalog, the more I loved it. They're a hell of a lot more than just disco.
Yes.
They had a whole wonderful life and career before, the mid 70s. I think they're underappreciated.
Yeah, that's probably the one thing that people don't know, like the general public don't know about them, I suppose.
Yeah, they were like a boy band.
Yeah.
And they started when they were kids.
Yes.
Little kids. It's mind-boggling.
Did you watch the documentary?
No, I don't have HBO Max, and I haven't found a sucker to give me the login information. So anyone out there that would like to drop me a DM with that information, I would appreciate it.
Okay, noted. Noted. So about music and instruments, can you play instruments?
No, none.
Have you tried?
Oh, I have.
Okay.
I have. I think the closest I've come is I can play tambourine along with something, and that's about it, man. I mean, I've tried drums.
Uh-huh.
Nope. I've tried bass. Nope. I know it in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I can play perfect air drums, but you literally put the sticks in my hand and forget it. So, and I've tried guitar, and I realized I did not have the finger strength.
Okay.
To hold down those strings. It's, people who are great at it make it look easy, and it's not.
Yes, and that's probably like the easiest sign of greatness. They make it look easy. They make it look effortless.
Yeah. And then you get these delusions of grandeur thinking you could do the same thing, and it's just a hot mess. So I gave up, and I definitely cannot sing.
Okay.
I have made my children cry.
Oh my God.
My singing. So it's bad.
What about the rest of your family? Is there a lot of talent, musical talent?
No.
Okay, let's leave it at that.
They follow my footsteps with the love.
Uh-huh.
They love music. Absolutely love it. They love listening to it. They'll go to concerts with me. They know about bands. They have their favorites. But playing it, no.
Okay.
My daughter played clarinet in school band for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and bells she played,
Okay.
and my son played bells, but they were both like meh and just stopped. Too much work, too much brain power to read music, I guess. So,
Well, I mean, if it was easy, everybody would do it,
everybody would do it.
Yep.
So we decide to appreciate it than create it.
There is nothing wrong with that. All right. We can, okay. we can switch gears again, but we will go back to music
Okay.
in a few minutes. But next gear is travel, question mark?
Well, before the pandemic, and when I was at Motorola, I was able to travel quite a bit. I have never left the United States, though.
Okay.
Well, if you can count the Caribbean and going on cruises and stuff like that. But I've never been to Europe. I've never been to Canada. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I know. And I realized too, my husband and I don't have the same travel aspirations, you might say. And I realized if I want to go anywhere, I'm going to go alone. So starting in maybe 2014, I started going on trips by myself
Okay.
because I thought I'm never going to go anywhere if I try to coordinate with other people. I'm just going to go.
Yep. And that's the
what I did.
best approach, because
Mhm.
I think it was Mike Siegel, I think, who said it on his episode. If you wait for either someone or the right time, it's probably
You'll
never
never
going to
go.
happen. Yeah. So can you give me an example of the different aspirations?
My husband likes the great outdoors, getting in a car, grabbing a tent, and going.
Okay.
I am fine with that. I do that. But he's also a creature of habit. So instead of exploring a new place, we might go to the same place we've been 100 times before, which also, there's nothing wrong with that because that's how traditions get made.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all for, traditions and things like that. But what he doesn't like is I told him I wanted to go to New York City. Well, over his dead body. He has very little interest in big cities
Okay.
and that kind of travel. I told him I wanted to go to Europe, and his answer was, we have not seen all of the United States yet.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he likes to stick close to home and have his routine.
Okay.
And I wanted to spread my wings a little bit more and go to things LA and New York and Comic Cons and things like that. And he's like, oh, hell no. So that's when I was like, okay, I will go by myself. So, and he likes to ski.
Okay.
I cannot.
Okay.
I skied once, and it ended up with me rolling down a hill and losing my skis and nearly getting run over when I stopped. It was just a horrible disaster. So if he wants to do a ski trip with some buddies, he is more than able to go. We don't stop each other from doing things like that.
That's the secret, I think. So you could go to Colorado together. He could go to Vail, and you could go to Denver.
Yeah, exactly.
Done.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. And we do things like that.
Okay.
We'll go to the same place and maybe do something different, or we'll do something together. Then we'll split up and do something different. But
Yep.
I'm not going to hold him back because I don't like something he does, and he's not going to do that to me either.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because you mentioned a cruise. I think I remember Trinidad. Did you go there?
Mm-hmm. I went to Trinidad in high school.
How was it?
It sucked because, and let me tell you why. There's a little story,
Yeah, please.
so buckle up.
Please.
So for my senior trip in high school, the teacher who arranged it was also a travel agent. So he got a hell of a deal
Okay.
for us and to go on a cruise. And we went on a 7-day cruise for our senior cruise.
Nice.
That's what we called it. So it was about, I think, 35 to 40 kids
Okay.
on this cruise ship. The poor man, I swear. And it was the Western Caribbean. So we flew down to Puerto Rico and did that area.
Okay.
And we were supposed to go to Caracas, South America.
Venezuela, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And this was in 1989 in May.
Okay.
And we were on our way there. And I still remember feeling the boat moving in a weird way, and an announcement coming over and getting a little itinerary change. There was an uprising in Caracas
Jesus.
right before we were supposed to get there. So the boat actually had to turn around, and they're like, we are not going to Caracas. And I was bummed because I was like, yeah, I can say I've been to South America. I was totally stoked. And they're like, we're going to Trinidad instead. And I'm like, all right. Well, the tourist section of Trinidad was all booked up with other cruise ships. So our cruise ship docked on the other side of the island in the industrial port.
Oh, ouch.
And ugh, that's all I'm going to say is,
Wow.
you know, dirty water, warehouses, no shopping.
Wow.
And they tried to arrange for taxis to come and pick people up and take us to the other side. But our chaperone didn't want us, we were kids. We were 17, 18 years old. And he's like, no way in hell are you doing that. He's like, you guys can get off the ship and walk around on the docks if you go in groups, but no.
Oh my God.
And I do remember walking on the dock in the warehouse district and saying, oh, this water is so polluted. Look at all the plastic. And I looked, and it had to have been thousands, if not millions of jellyfish.
Oh.
And I was like, get me the hell back on this boat. And I got back on the boat.
Oh,
so
horrible.
I would like to go back there as a tourist in the tourist side, because I don't think I got what I should have.
No, absolutely. And also, I mean, I don't know how big Trinidad is. Well, I mean, obviously the tourism has developed since that time also. That sounds like a shitty week. Jesus.
Thank God it was only one day, obviously, because we went to St. Martin and Martinique.
Okay, that's nice.
And St. Thomas and things like that. So we did go to other places.
Okay.
But yeah, Caracas sort of threw us a monkey wrench there, let me tell you.
But St. Martin is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It is.
And
we went to both sides. We went to the Dutch side and the French side.
Ah, okay. Nice. How was the weather during that week?
It was really nice. It was great weather the whole time we were there.
Okay.
Not too hot, and there was no rain or anything, so we lucked out.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't want to, go all silver lining and all, but it sounds like only the Trinidad part was shitty.
Yes, only that 24-hour part was shitty. The rest of the trip was great.
Oh, awesome.
And what was also great was I'm born in the end of the year.
Okay.
So my birthday is, in the latter part of the year, which is the beginning part of the year of a school year. So I was 18 when 95% of the other kids were not. So I was drinking, I was gambling, I was having the time of my damn life, and those little shits couldn't do anything about it.
There you go. That's the spirit.
Yep. And I'll have to share a picture of me on that cruise with my friends, and I have a champagne glass in my hand, and I am lit. So yeah,
please, yeah, I didn't know actually the majority age, like the
international drinking age or the legal age, yeah.
So in those countries, I guess it was 18 after all.
18.
Okay.
I don't know what it is now when you're on international waters, but it was 18 in the 80s.
Okay, so that means you were allowed to drink on the boat and inland as well.
On land. They weren't checking IDs on land anyway.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty kick-ass week after all.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
You were able to take advantage of the day in Trinidad to sober up.
Yes.
Not even that. I mean, on the docks, there must have been like some, watering joints there, I suppose. I don't know.
Not even. We got onto Trinidad soil to say we were there, and then I went back on the boat and like took a nap.
Okay.
It was my relaxing day.
Well, maybe that can be on your travel bucket list,
Yeah, it should. I should go back there.
There you go.
'Cause I do enjoy the Caribbean quite a bit, actually. So
Okay. I've never been.
really,
No.
it's
So,
a good time.
yeah, maybe it should be on my list as well.
There you go.
All right. We can switch gears again if you want.
Oh, let's go.
To talk a little bit about sports.
Oh, okay.
You do enjoy sports.
Yes, I do.
All right. Tell me about your favorite teams.
Well, they're mainly Chicago teams.
Mm-hmm.
Got my Chicago Bears, Chicago Cubs, the Bulls, the Blackhawks, screw the White Sox. But
Shots fired.
kaboom. I know you've talked about like your most memorable game and things
Yes.
like that. In 1997, I saw the Bulls versus the Atlanta Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Atlanta. Their final game of the series
Okay.
for the playoffs.
Okay. So the conference finals?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was May 1997.
Okay.
I was able to score tickets. I got 2 tickets, one for me, and I took my dad.
Nice.
And it was at the United Center. And we were so high up that, at these games, they have, the little blimps going around and shooting cannons and t-shirt. That blimp was nowhere near. It couldn't even get that high. I swear I could have touched the ceiling. We were so high up, but we were there, and I'll never forget it. And this is another picture I'll share with you.
Mm-hmm.
Before the game, my sister and her friend Ken took a wire hanger and made horns. It was a headpiece, almost like a halo with horns sticking out of it, and they put it on my head, and we braided my hair into the horns, so I had hair horns like a bull with red and white ribbons, and I was wearing my Kukoc jersey because he was my favorite player ever.
Nice.
And it was so funny because I got more shit for the jersey than I did for my hair.
Really?
And I was like, are you kidding me? It's just like, Kukoc is the waiter, man. He serves the ball to Jordan and Pippen. You got to give that man some credit. And it was pretty funny. And I remember sitting there with my dad during the game, and he's just like, I can't believe it's like, I can't believe you have horns in your head. But it was great because, number one, it was a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
And it was during one of their many championship runs.
Yeah.
And I was able to share it with my father. I didn't bring a friend. I didn't bring a boyfriend. I brought my dad, because that was something that you share with your dad.
Yeah. In
my opinion.
Yeah.
And that was our night. It was great. So that was a great night, because I got to see them. I got to see Jordan in the flesh playing, and Rodman and Pippen and, Luke Longley and, Tony Kukoc. Just saw him I was so excited and so happy.
Nice. And was your dad a big Bulls fan as well?
He watched them. My dad was the type of sports fan where on any given Sunday, he was in front of the TV watching it. It didn't matter what it was. He had his preferred teams and everything, but he didn't go to games or anything. He did tell me that in the 70s, when they were a dime a dozen for a ticket, but he used to go see the Hawks all the time, the Blackhawks.
Ah, okay. Yeah, okay.
So that was probably the most he's ever seen a team when he would see the Blackhawks.
70s. Yeah, that was before they got Denis Savard and a few other players. They were pretty bad.
Yeah.
During those days.
You just went and hung out pretty much.
There you go. That's the spirit.
Yeah.
I don't know if the beer was expensive back then, but I don't know.
No, it wasn't. Not in a city. You had your old style flowing for pretty cheap in Chicago back then. So.
All right. Sounds good. So, sticking with sports, what would be your favorite sports movie?
Okay, I was thinking about this. And you're going to roll your eyes because I'm just going to come out and say it.
Wait.
Okay.
I'll write it down and I'll show it to you and you tell me if I am right. Okay? I don't know if you can read it.
Nope.
No? Okay.
Nope. I've seen it, but no.
Okay. I wrote down Hoosiers.
I have to say, and it's not a serious sports movie, but I have to say Happy Gilmore.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you why.
Please.
Because, people are like, oh, that's not even serious. But in a way it is, because he started off as a hockey player and a shitty one. But he had a talent for the swing. And if you look past all the cliches and the lowbrow humor and everything, it demonstrates that you can be thrown a curveball and have your dreams completely unreachable, and you refocus and go in a different direction, and you can find success in that. And that was always my takeaway in that. Not only being funny and everything, but, the whole premise was, he was going to be this great hockey player, and he just kept getting cut. And someone gave him this chance to play golf, and look what happens, I mean, a little cheesy of me to say that and everything, but that's probably my favorite sports movie. That and, being a child of the 70s, I have to throw in the Bad News Bears too.
Yes. Yes. And is there one that you remember hating?
Not really, because there's a reason I watch movies. There has to be some part of it that interests me enough to watch it. I will say I did not appreciate Rocky when I was a kid.
Okay.
That came out also when I was too young, and it scared me. I didn't like people hitting each other and the blood and everything. But when I got older, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to rewatch this. And I was like, holy shit, this is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
So at the time I didn't appreciate it, but I wouldn't say I didn't dislike it.
Okay. That's a good, complete, and full answer. Nice.
I'm very diplomatic in that way.
All right. Well, you don't have to be today. You can let loose.
I will. When I need to, I will. Don't worry.
Okay. Awesome. All right. We can switch gears again, if that's okay.
Okay. No problem.
Well, actually, I had one sports question left. What is your earliest memory of a sports event? Not in person, on TV, I suppose.
I have two I was thinking about.
Okay.
Cubs games on TV. Not that I sat and watched them, but even today, if I put on the radio and listen to a Cubs game, that hum of the crowd in the background, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I always heard that when I was growing up because my grandpa would have the game on. So if I want to feel nostalgic or anything or remember, my parents are both gone now. And if I want to remember my parents or my grandparents, I put on a Cubs game and I just hear that hum of the crowd. And I remember being a kid and having that on in my house all the time. And as for events, I, for some reason, remember my dad watching the Indy 500.
Okay.
I remember seeing, and this is also in the 70s, those cars. And I remember, boy, this is a long race because my, football game, Dad would be done in a couple hours. But boy, that Indy 500, he's sitting there. I'd be like, he's just sitting there watching cars. Okay.
Go around.
Which ended up being funny because I've actually been to the Indy 500 3 times. So it's sort of funny that I became an IndyCar fan later on when he wasn't a giant fan, but that was just what you did during that weekend was watch the Indy 500.
But what's the distance between Indianapolis and where you were back then?
When I was a kid, maybe a 3.5 hour drive.
Okay.
we measure things in time here, not miles. So I couldn't tell you how far it was, but it took about 3.5 hours to drive there.
Okay. And how old were you when you first went there?
I was in my 20s, actually.
Okay.
I was in my 30s.
Okay.
It was because of Motorola. We sponsored a driver.
Okay.
And
I was looking for the link, but okay. All right.
we sponsored a driver. We sponsored a team. And they did an Indy race outside of Chicago at Joliet Speedway.
Okay.
And they took us there. They put us on a bus, my team, because the archives actually reported into marketing. So we got all those fun marketing perks. So we went with the marketing team to watch a race, and we got to meet the drivers. And let me tell you, I was in love. I love the drivers. I love the race. I love the smell. I love the noise. And I was like, that's it, man. This is it. This is my passion. I am going to races. And then I started going to the Indy 500.
Wow.
With my husband, he and I would go.
Okay. Have you been to other races as well?
I've gone to Joliet a couple times and Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
India, somewhere else. I can't remember. Chicago, Milwaukee, I think Iowa, and then Indy 500, where I almost got ran over by Jim Neighbors. So.
That's your claim to fame.
God, I hope not.
That's pretty good. But what happened?
So are you familiar with the Indianapolis racetrack? You have the inner and then the outer.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes.
Okay. One year, I decided I wanted to sit in the pagoda stands, which is on the inner track. Mm-hmm. And when you're in the inner track, you can wander around behind that area there.
Okay.
And there's so many people there, and there's just and I was trying to find the bathroom, and I'm wandering around, and I'm disorientated, and there's people everywhere, and I didn't know there was a little lane for golf carts, and I stepped right into it, and at that very moment, I heard the little, that high-pitched beep, beep, beep. I heard that, and the squealing of tires, and he was a foot away from me. He stopped, and he's like, look where you're going. And I'm like, it's Gomer fucking Pyle. And I'm like, I'm out of here. And I was like, sorry. And then I ran away. I almost got killed by Jim Neighbors on a golf cart while he was he was heading to the front to sing his Indiana song.
He would have had an anecdote as well.
Oh, yeah.
I ran someone over on my way to the stage.
Some idiot I literally stepped in front of him.
That's good.
I'm a klutz and a hot mess, let me tell you.
That's solid. But actually, if you have pictures from the Indy 500, I'd like to see those.
Okay.
That would be cool. All right. So, okay, we can switch gears.
Okay.
This time back to music.
All right.
So I have, all right. I have a short list, the usual questions. We can start with, what is your favorite music movie?
That would be Breaking Glass.
Okay. I don't know about that one.
It stars Hazel O'Connor. I believe it's an early 80s movie.
Okay.
And it's about a girl or a woman starting a punk band and their rise to fame.
Okay.
Excellent movie. And the soundtrack is to die for. It's probably one of my favorite soundtracks.
All right. Breaking Glass. Okay, so now I feel kind of bad for not knowing about it.
It's okay.
It's an American movie?
British.
Okay. Who plays in it?
Hazel O'Connor.
Yeah, but anyone else?
No.
Okay.
Rat Scabies has a 5-second cameo. He's the drummer for The Damned, but it's okay. And there might be other people who are more well known outside of the US, but I never recognized them.
Okay. And how did you become aware of that movie?
There was a show on Saturday nights called Night Flight.
Mm-hmm.
It's the USA Network, and they would show videos and clips and movies. And this was a movie, and I was like, huh, this looks interesting. And I started watching it, and I was hooked like immediately. The music is so good.
All right, I'll keep that in mind. Breaking Glass. Okay, good. And what about your least favorite one?
You know, I couldn't think of one. I really couldn't. Like I said with other movies, I had to have had at least some interest in order to watch it in the first place. So,
and if you hate it, you hit stop and you
I
bail.
just turn it
exactly.
off. Yeah, and I'm out.
Okay, that's all right. That's no problem. Second question: what is your favorite book related to music?
It would have to be "I'm with the Band" by Pamela Des Barres.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Confessions of a Groupie. So it's musicians and artists in the 60s and 70s. And she was, exactly what she said. She was a groupie. So it's little stories about, it's not a tell-all book like Kiss and Tell, but it's her influence and dealings with maybe Keith Moon or Robert Plant and Jimmy Page and Frank Zappa and things like that. And I read it in high school and I was like, couldn't do that today. Even in the 80s, I was just like, couldn't get away with that today. And you can't get away with it today either. So it was just this unveiling of rock star life that was just mind-blowing to me. Like
massive drug use and stuff like that?
Yeah, and it's just the way things were. I remember hearing stories about bands like Guns N' Roses and the Sunset Strip, how they had little one-room apartments, and I wouldn't call them groupies, but they had women who took care of them.
Okay.
The clothes don't wash themselves and food doesn't get, and that's almost what groupies were. They were sort of like
PAs almost?
Yeah, almost, like an au pair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
On the road and, sex, taking care of them, clothes, companionship, everything, and it was just interesting. It's an eye-opening book because it's a lot more than just,
drugs.
Cynthia Plastercaster, it's a little more than that.
All right. Okay, so next question. What was your first concert?
That would be the Thompson Twins.
Oh, nice.
The Into the Gap tour. I was 13 years old.
Okay, so if I can be really rude, what year would that be?
84.
Okay.
So, yep. I was in junior high. I went with my sister and her friend. They were in high school.
Okay.
And that was my first show. And I was hooked.
So, yeah, that was my next question. I assume you liked it?
Oh, I loved it. I couldn't, because at the time, they were one of my favorite bands. Mm-hmm. Absolutely loved them. And I couldn't believe, and I still get this way today. I can't believe they're right in front of me. There they are. That voice from this flat disc is in front of me. And it blows me away sometimes.
Did you have nice tickets?
Not bad. I don't remember, but I remember I was able to see them very well without the aid of any type of video screens or anything.
Okay, good enough.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so next question. Maybe that's the same answer, but what is your favorite or most memorable concert?
Okay. It's really hard because...
Too many anecdotes.
There's too many. But the one I always return to is Paul McCartney, because I think he was my first big concert.
Okay.
I liked these little bands that played smaller venues and little things like that. I mean, I saw Culture Club when they were really big.
Nice.
But Paul McCartney was...
Next step, yeah.
Next step, the production. And this was the Flowers in the Dirt tour. So that was 88, 89. And Linda was still alive and she was there, which another thing I didn't appreciate at the time. And we had really, really good seats. We were on the mezzanine and we were sort of diagonal to the stage, so you could see a little bit more than the ground floor, and blew my mind.
Nice.
And I went, it was my friend and I and her mother went batshit crazy when he came out on stage. And I remember looking at her going, holy crap, Beatlemania exists.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I was going to say that.
She lost her mind. And then the person who I did not know on the left of me, she burst into tears. The women were going, I'm like, oh my God, they're all crazy. And after maybe 2 songs, my friend and I realized that we were getting weepy and emotional. I mean, it was just,
wow.
It was a wild ride, because he did Beatles songs, he did solo songs. It was great. And I think my favorite track from that concert was when he did Live and Let Die, because he did the strobe lights during it, and it would go black, and then when it would kick in again, the strobes would go, and it was just primo.
Wow.
Primo.
It was at the United Center, I guess?
No, it was at the Rosemont Horizon is what it was called, which is at the time was the big venue. I mean, now it's sort of a joke, but it's a good size, and it's very close to O'Hare. So people can fly in and do the show and get the hell out of town if they need to. So it's a perfect place for artists.
Okay. And how many people can fit there?
Oh, give me a minute. Ask me another question and I'll get you the answer for that. See, this is the archivist in me. You can't ask me research questions.
Okay, that's all right. No problem. Well, the next question would be, what was the scariest concert crowd you've ever been in?
That would be The Damned.
Okay.
And that would be in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I know that place just because of the French Connection.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's crazy. This is one of those little adventures. I flew out there by myself, and I met a friend who I did not know. We only knew each other online. She was one of my damned friends, as I call them, and she lived in New York. So I flew into Albany.
Okay.
She picked me up, and we went to Poughkeepsie and saw the show. And then the next day we spent it in New York City. And this crowd was, I don't know if they let people out of jail for the day or what, but they came for a punk show. And they were pretty brutal.
Okay.
And when I go to see a band I like, I'm going to be up in front.
Okay.
And she and I were up in the front, and there was a literal mosh pit right behind us. And it had such a pull that we were actually sort of hanging on to the barrier because we could feel the pull.
Jesus.
And I'm not playing. I'm not going into this, because this was only 6 years ago. So I'm in my 40s, and I'm like, Lisa ain't playing. I'm not going into a mosh pit. And it was all men, of course, with their combat boots and their leather jackets.
Jesus.
And I don't think they liked the ladies up in front. So once in a while, and this is what cowards do as they're going around, I would get punched in the back of the head. And of course, you turn around and he's gone because he's a coward.
Of course.
So she and I both got hit a couple times, and then we started donkey kicking back and kicking and tripping. And
nice.
And security finally broke it up because it got out of control. It was like the whole end was the swirl, the whole back behind us, the whole place. And security finally broke it up, and we were able to enjoy the concert. But it started out annoying, and then it got scary because you're at a concert, and even in the punk mentality and mosh pits, you don't hit people. You don't go in there to start fights.
No, that's true.
You go in there to enjoy the music and to be a community. And if you have one or two assholes in there that decide to throw sucker punches at women,
Yeah.
that ain't cool.
No, it's not.
So one nice thing about it is the guitarist, Captain Sensible, did not like it, did not like what was happening. And he actually posted on Facebook and told the fans that moving forward, they better have more decorum and to stop beating up on the women. So, which was nice. He was very unhappy at the abuse we were getting.
It's amazing that they have to specify that. Hey guys, don't hit women.
Yeah. Stop punching the 5'2" woman in front of you. What a big man you are.
That's insane.
Yeah. Oh, and Allstate Arena, it's 18,500.
Oh, okay. So that's pretty decent.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right. Okay. Moving on.
Play it.
Next question. Is there a band that turned you into a fan after you saw them live?
Here comes another story from Lisa. Lisa story time here.
Please.
So we have to go back in time a little bit to the 70s again. My sister and I loved Pink Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
We loved Another Brick in the Wall, the whole Wall album. And I wouldn't call myself a massive Pink Floyd fan. Very familiar with their work, though. And I have my favorites. And for years, I was Team Gilmour.
Okay.
I liked his songs. I liked his voice. And I think this is going to sound stupid, but I think it's because he had a more gentler approach to his lyrics and his voice. It's a little more soothing. I thought Roger Waters was scary and angry, and he made me uncomfortable.
Okay.
Because it was just like you felt there was some sort of rage or unresolved issues with the man. And when you're a kid or even a teenager, it was a little discerning to me. So I always sort of dismissed him. Like, I like Gilmour. Or, and then Sid. I like Sid Barrett. I loved early Pink Floyd, And my husband loves Roger Waters.
Okay.
Absolutely loves him. Mostly his solo work.
Okay.
Absolutely. Just Radio Chaos, all that. Loves Roger Waters. So Roger Waters came to Chicago in 2017 for his Us and Them tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I told my husband, I'll buy you tickets for our anniversary. And if you can't find someone to go with you, I guess I'll go. I mean, I didn't even want to go. Well, he wanted me to go with him. He's like, Lisa, you love Pink Floyd. You love The Wall. Your favorite song was sung by him because I love Run Like Hell.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you got to go. I'm like, fine, I'll go. Because I thought he was going to be doing solo stuff. I didn't think he was going to be doing any Floyd or anything.
Okay.
So this was at the United Center. It was a huge production. Huge. Within 15 minutes, I was in tears.
Wow.
And my husband's like, what is the matter with you? I'm like, this is the most beautiful, wonderful experience ever. This comes really close to passing Paul McCartney.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because it blew my mind visually. He blew my mind. His voice blew my mind. And it was almost like a light went on in my head where I was like, I wasted so many years ignoring him, like literally ignoring his contribution to music because he made me uncomfortable as a kid. So I felt guilty. I felt elated. It was crazy. I wish there was a shrink there because I would have laid down on the couch right there. I would have been like, you need to analyze this shit because I am losing my mind. And when we left, I mean, it was like I was higher than a kite. I was on cloud nine. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I get it now. I get it. And I drank the Waters Kool-Aid, let me tell you. And he actually was going to come back around in 2020, and I got tickets again. And I told my husband, I go, you could go with me if you want, because I'm going. And it's been postponed twice now. So I'm hoping we'll get to see it. But yeah, hook, line, and sinker.
Nice.
I just went off the deep end during that show. I mean, to the point where I was in tears. I was so moved.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
All right. So next question. What is your most memorable or favorite brush with fame?
I was thinking about this.
Mm-hmm.
A few weeks ago, a friend of mine asked me, who's the most famous person you met? And I told her I really couldn't think of anybody, but I said Jim Parsons from The Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
And she was like, nah, big deal. Who else have you met?
Have you met Obama for work?
Never met him.
Okay.
I probably never will, but believe me, if I do, he shoots the top of the list.
Yes.
But I hope I wouldn't have any stories, let me tell you. And I named off a few other people that I've had brushes with, and she lasered in on one person. So I'm going to mention this person, and that's Tim McGraw.
Oh, okay.
And I think I always dismiss him because I'm not a country fan. And so I'm familiar with his music, but I don't have any of his albums. I know he's also an actor.
Yes.
Oh, there you go. The Blind Side. Love that fucking movie. That's a sports movie.
Okay.
Anyway,
yeah. True.
Sorry for the F-bomb there.
No.
Yeah. Oh my God. The Blind Side. How could I forget The Blind Side? But he was in that, and I guess he's in that Yellowstone series.
I think so, yeah. I don't watch it, but I think so, yeah.
So I know he's done acting work and stuff. So we're going to have to go into the Wayback Machine to 1995. And I was a student at Illinois State University, and I was part of the entertainment committee.
Okay.
And we were sort of booking agents that would bring artists in for concerts. And we would do everything ourselves. If the artist came, we did hospitality, we did security, we did, we had production runners and everything. And because I didn't know who the hell Tim McGraw was and I really didn't care, they made me his production runner because they knew I wouldn't be fangirling all over the place over him.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I was his production runner, and I met his manager first. Very nice guy. And it was funny because my first duty was to go back to their hotel because the manager forgot his wallet in his hotel room. So that was my first job, was going to the hotel room and getting this guy's packed with money wallet and bringing it to him. And I'm like, well, that just proved my trustworthiness to do that, go in this guy's hotel room and get his wallet, for crying out loud. And my second big job for the night was getting Tim back to his hotel. And they had to use a decoy vehicle. So I was in a van that was a maintenance van for the school. So it was just beat up old van.
Okay. And
next to me was the limo. And of course, all the fans were going around the limo, and the limo started driving away, and all the ladies going around the limo. And the back doors of the van open, and Tim comes in through the back, and he's sitting in the back seat, like near the floor, so they wouldn't see him.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as he shut the door, I asked him if he was ready, and he said yes, and we start going. Well, he thought he was clear, and he popped up and sat in a chair, and one of the women saw him.
Oh.
Now they're chasing me and Mr. McGraw in the van. Now at ISU, which is Illinois State University, and it's in central Illinois, their arena, to get out of their arena, you have to cross over like 2 lanes of traffic to turn left.
Okay.
And I remember sitting there, and then by this time he knew the jig was up, so he's sitting in the front seat with me, so I'm in the front, he's in the passenger side. And I'm at the stop sign, there's traffic coming, look in the rearview mirror, and here come the women bearing down on us.
Like a pack of zombies almost.
Yeah, oh my God. And I see this little teeny gap in the traffic, and I turned to him and I said, hang on. And he's like, what? I'm like, hang on. And I gun it, and I cut through, and the horns are blowing because I am cutting right in there. And all I hear is I'm driving like with my face up to the windshield because I'm like, oh my God. And all I hear from Tim quietly going, we're going to die. And we get, and I cross the traffic and we're starting to drive. And he's just like, holy cow, you did it. And I'm like, yeah, let's get you back to your hotel. And I think he was asking me like what I was doing in school and my studies and everything. He could not have been the nicest person I've ever met in my entire life.
Wow.
He was polite. He was sweet. There was no ego, no nothing. And this guy just did a sold out arena at a college. And he could have had attitude. He could have sat in the back, but he didn't. And I would have to say, and my friend was right, that's probably my better story because we had more interaction and he was nice, like super nice. And that's my story, my nice story.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. He didn't need to be, as you said, he didn't need to be nice. You could have just sat there, not saying
Could
a
have
word.
ignored me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like most people do. I mean, Sheryl Crow came to ISU and she was the polar opposite of Mr. McGraw, and that's all I'm going to say. To the fact where 25 years later, I still can't listen to her on the radio. I turn her off. That is how unpleasant she was on the other side of the scale.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, she was not nice.
All right. Okay, so let's keep it at that.
Yes.
And move on to the next question. Okay, so what piece of music memorabilia would you like in your house?
There is something that I saw. I used to go to Beatlefest, which was the Beatles convention. They used to have it in Chicago. They had it everywhere, but they had one in Chicago. And they had a raffle for a traveling Wilburys guitar that was signed by all of them.
Nice.
It haunts me to this day that I don't have it. Because, at first I was just like, ooh, George Harrison, not even thinking about the other guys. I mean, talk about tunnel vision in the mind of a teenage girl, right? But it was being raffled off and I bought maybe $5 worth. And to this day, I'm like, man, why didn't I do $100? Why didn't I do, I would kill for that because it was it. And it's funny because, I love Bob Dylan and I love Roy Orbison and, Jeff Lynne, don't ask me about, what's his name? Tom Petty. But anyway, but
that's okay.
Yeah, I can't believe I just was like, I'll spend $5 on a raffle ticket. What was I thinking? I should have bought every ticket in the roll and really went for it because that's like the one that got away to me, and I would love to have it still.
That's
it's
a big
one of those things that haunts me.
Well, I mean, if that's one of the few things, that's not too bad.
No, I guess not. But whenever I hear about memorabilia, that is the first thing that pops into my head is that guitar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it found a nice home.
I hope so. I should look it up, see if there's any out there.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe.
It's a heck of a lot more than a $5 raffle ticket now. I'll tell you that.
Probably, yeah. All right. Next question. Name me a cover song, in your opinion, that was better than the original.
I am going to have to go with Telegram Sam by Bauhaus. Now, I love T-Rex. Love them to death. But the Bauhaus version of Telegram Sam, in my opinion, is head and shoulders greater than theirs.
That's the one I'm more familiar with. The T-Rex version, the T-Rex version, I don't remember that much.
It's a little more, it's slower, a little more psychedelic, a little more groovier.
Okay.
And Bauhaus, man, it comes at you out of a cannon, man. And to me, a lot of times if it's the first song I heard, that's the one I like more. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, same.
And I know it's sacrilege because I love David Bowie, but I almost give Bauhaus's Ziggy Stardust almost an edge.
Okay.
Just a little bit over Bowie's version.
All right. That's okay.
I know. People are throwing things at their speakers right now.
Throwing their phone into the lake.
Yeah, what the hell's wrong with her? Unfollow ALA 005.
Okay, so next question. Tell me your favorite anecdote about a concert that you left early.
Concerts to me are a lot like movies. I have never left a concert early. Okay. However, I saw Peter Murphy at the House of Blues in Chicago several times. But one of the times he had an opener who was unbilled. And I always give openers a chance. If not, where would they be? I mean, Jewel opened up for Peter Murphy. Nine Inch Nails opened up for Peter Murphy. If people just left the venue during an opening act, I think that's rude.
Yeah.
So I always try to stick around for the opening act. But, however, this guy came out and literally just started screaming. Not yodeling, not screaming, just screaming.
Okay.
And I remember turning to my friend and I'm like, I'm not putting up with this shit. And we went as far as we could within House of Blues away from this guy. And I think I even because you know how the House of Blues, it's like has curtains and it's all art and everything in there. I think I actually sat on the floor behind a set of curtains to try to muffle the noise. I was like, I can't even.
Wow.
Yeah. And I stayed hidden with my hands over my ears until he was gone. I think he lasted 2 or 3 songs. I don't know what the hell he was doing. I wouldn't even call them songs. And then we went back out there.
Wow.
It was awful. It was eardrum bleeding awful.
At least it was short.
It was very short.
Fortunately.
But it was bad. Really bad.
All right. It almost sounds like it was performance art or something, just like screaming like a banshee into the mic and see what happens.
It was awful. It was awful. I would have rather seen Yoko Ono doing screaming other than this bozo. That's how bad he was.
And his name wasn't mentioned anywhere.
I think an announcer said his name, like, an opening tonight is blah, blah, blah. And we weren't really, his name wasn't on the ticket or anything. Okay. And it was, man, it was bad.
Sounds like it. Okay, so that's it for part 1. Lisa, you're staying with us for part 2, the quick and quirky questions?
Always.
All right.